Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa has lambasted AfriForum and Solidarity for meeting with senior officials from the Trump administration in the White House. The United States is opposed to the Expropriation Act that was recently enacted in the country and against Pretoria's decision to drag Israel into the International Court of Justice over the untenable situation in Gaza. US President Donald Trump has also axed aid to South Africa in response to land reform policies. This has also raised fears of trade deal Africa Growth and Opportunities Act may be next. Under AGOA, South Africa gets tariff-free quotas on agricultural exports, including wine, citrus and other products. International relations analyst from Wits University, Professor John Stremlau, joins us now to unpack SA foreign policy in the likes of the AfriForum's case. Prof, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. So President Cyril Ramaphosa and, in fact, other senior government officials are not the only ones, really, who have lambasted AfriForum and the Solidarity for meeting the Trump administration. I mean, organizations like the Chamber of Commerce in the United States of America and South Africans alike have weighed in, accusing AfriForum of spreading false information. How does this further erode the relationship between the US and South Africa as more and more calls of treason against the organization are increasing at the moment?
Well, I'm going to be a little ironic here because I have refused to comment on the domestic activities of AfriForum. And I think that Kali was speaking nonsense on their show about the denials that Cyril Ramaphosa is accused of. But the domestic response that Cyril Ramaphosa did was to ignore the appeals of the letters that come from a very, very small minority. I mean, after all, there's only 8% who look like me in this country, and the 57% of them are Afrikaners, and I understand their tribal instincts, but they are a privileged minority and have always been a privileged minority. But the work that they do in the United States, and that's where the irony comes in, is really to show the Trump administration for what it is. It is talking about anti-wokeism. It's talking about anti-DEIism. And the fact of the matter is that whites are losing, particularly white males, are losing their privileged status in the United States as it becomes a poor country. And this is the last gasp, I think, of the white nationalists, and let the Afrikaners go ahead and dramatize what is really at stake for the Trump administration. The Trump and others who were raised under apartheid here have made their money in Silicon Valley, yes, but they are now close advisors to the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and they are drawing attention to what is the falsity of his meritocracy and talk about anti-wokeism, when in fact there are identity and proponents of white nationalism, and they're losing, I hope. Yeah. But it is a constitutional crisis in the United States.
Yeah. And Prof, I mean, how concerned should we be about the subsequent consequences economically for South Africa? I mean, already today, US President Donald Trump officially axing then aid to South Africa with immediate effect in response to, the land reform policies. There's also raised concerns, of course, of the trade deal, Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, maybe next, AGOA. And of course, this is a concern given the renewal process happening in just a few months' time. Just given that narrative and the fact that we are seeing that some groups have a direct line to the Trump administration, and our government is seemingly struggling just to get an official meeting here.
Well, it is a reminder that South Africa does matter to the United States. And at the same time, Unfortunately, there's a lot of blood on the carpet as a result of the aid cuts everywhere in Africa, but particularly in South Africa, that we feel the programs that were in the interests of both countries and enjoyed bipartisan, and I stress this, bipartisan support in the U.S. Congress. This Trump administration is just going to have to be tolerated, because I don't think you can influence the Trump administration very much, and certainly not the arguments that Cyril Ramaphosa eloquently tabled in the SONA and speaking to the G20. And I think he's right on. And you should take a deep breath and hope that the Democrats will win in the 2026 elections and take control of the Congress. But in the short term, there's nothing one can do. This Trump administration was duly elected in November 5th, and so it's got to be adapted to. And I know that message is hard to swallow because it's so unjust and unfair and cruel. But nevertheless, that's Donald Trump.
And finally, Prof, of course, the G20 presidency is an important one for South Africa. And we know, of course, that Marco Rubio did not attend the G20 foreign ministers. Then again, there was another no-show from the U.S. When we were holding the U.S. Finance meetings too. Of course, Marco Rubio was replaced by the diplomat Donna Brown. Of course, just coming at the back of those reports today of a senior U.S. diplomat in South Africa having resigned. Just your comments in terms of what are we likely to see then in terms of representation, firstly, from the U.S. in this country going forward?
Well, becomes the ambassador, it's going to be more of the same ethnic nationalism that the Trump administration is characterized by, that I've mentioned already. But I do think that the G20 has to take a deep breath and try to find a way around. The troika was agreed to by the Biden administration, and there is no reason to think that Donald Trump is going to pitch up here in South Africa for the summit, but he could. But in any case, I think they burned their bridges now, and so that the troika ought to be reformed and begun in the 2026 year, and ignore the United States. I mean, I don't think there's any point in the G20 going to the United States as long as Donald Trump is president.
Prof, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate your insights. Professor John Stremlau there for us from the Wits University.